Imagine giving someone everything, loving them, protecting them, raising them. And then one day, they look you in the eyes and say, "I want what belongs to me, but I don't want you." Most people would never forget that pain. Most people would close the door forever. But what if I told you there was a father who did something no one expected? A story about pride, bad decisions, regret, and a love so powerful that it changed everything. This is the story of the prodigal son. Long ago, Jesus often taught people through stories. These stories were simple enough for anyone to understand, but they carried powerful lessons that could change the way people saw life. On one particular day, crowds of people had gathered around Jesus. Some were ordinary people, workers, families, and those searching for hope. Others were religious leaders who often questioned him and criticized the people he spent time with. So Jesus began telling a story. He said,
"There was once a man who had 2 sons.
Now before we continue, let's meet the people in this story. First, there is the father. The father is kind, patient, hardworking, and deeply loves his family. He isn't harsh or cruel. He cares about his children more than anything he owns. Then there is the younger son. He is ambitious and restless. He dreams about adventure. He feels trapped by routine and begins thinking there must be something bigger and more exciting waiting for him somewhere else. And finally, there is the older son. He is responsible, disciplined, and loyal. He works hard and follows the rules. Unlike his younger brother, he believes in duty and responsibility. 3 people, 3 hearts, 3 very different ways of seeing life. One day, the younger son walked up to his father and said something shocking.
"Father, give me my share of the inheritance."
Today, that may not sound unusual, but back then, this was a painful thing to say. An inheritance was usually given after a parent died. So in a way, the son was saying,
"I want your possessions, but I don't want to wait for you. I want what belongs to me now."
Imagine hearing that from someone you love. Imagine your own child saying,
"I care more about what you can give me than having you in my life."
The words must have hurt deeply. The father could have become angry. He could have shouted. He could have refused. But he didn't. Instead, he did something unexpected. He divided his property and gave the younger son his share. And just like that, the younger son had exactly what he thought he wanted. Money, freedom, choices. No rules, no responsibilities. No one telling him what to do. At first, it probably felt incredible. He packed his belongings and left home. As he walked away, excitement filled his heart. He believed his real life was finally beginning. He looked toward distant places and thought,
"Now I'm free."
but sometimes, the things we chase the hardest become the very things that lead us into trouble. The younger son left home and traveled far away to another land. As he walked down dusty roads and passed through towns and cities, excitement filled his heart. For the first time in his life, nobody was watching him. Nobody was telling him what time to wake up. Nobody was giving him responsibilities. Nobody was asking where he was going. He had money in his pocket and freedom in his hands. And to him, life had never looked better. At first, everything felt amazing. People began gathering around him. Strangers suddenly wanted to be his friends. He was invited to celebrations. Music filled the air. Tables were covered with food. Laughter surrounded him everywhere he went. The younger son probably looked around and thought,
This is living.
for a while, he felt like he had made the greatest decision of his life. He spent money without thinking. If he wanted something, he bought it. If he wanted to go somewhere, he went. If he wanted excitement, he chased it. Day after day, he lived only for the moment. But there is something about living without wisdom. When you only think about today and never think about tomorrow, eventually tomorrow arrives. Slowly, his money started disappearing. A little here, a little there, then more, then even more, until one day, he looked into his pockets and realized something terrifying. There was nothing left. Everything was gone. The money that once made him feel powerful had vanished. The people who once surrounded him began disappearing too. The invitations stopped coming. The laughter became silent. The friends who once called his name suddenly acted like they didn't know him. And in one painful moment, he discovered something many people learn the hard way. Some people stay close when you have something to offer, but when everything is gone, they disappear. Now things became worse. Not only had he lost all his money, but a famine struck the land. Food became scarce. Jobs became difficult to find. People were struggling everywhere. And now, the younger son was desperate. He needed help. He needed food. He needed anything. Eventually, he found a man who gave him work. Now let's briefly introduce this new character. This man wasn't interested in helping him because he cared about him. He simply needed someone to do difficult work, and the job he gave the younger son was feeding pigs. Now, for many people listening today, feeding pigs might not sound like a big deal, but in that culture, this was humiliating. This was considered one of the lowest jobs imaginable. The son who once lived with comfort was now standing in dirt. The son who once spent money freely was now hungry. The son who thought he had everything was now broken. Day after day, he fed the pigs, and eventually, he became so hungry that he looked at the food the pigs were eating and thought,
I wish I could eat that.
Imagine that moment. Imagine falling so far that you begin wishing for animal food. Imagine remembering where you came from, remembering warm meals, remembering safety, remembering home. Then something changed. For the first time in a long time, the younger son stopped running. He stopped chasing excitement. He stopped blaming other people. He stopped pretending everything was okay. And he finally looked honestly at himself. He thought,
Wait a minute. My father's servants have food. They have homes. They have enough to eat. And here I am starving.
Then he said,
I know what I'll do. I'll go back home. But I won't ask to be treated like a son anymore. I'll simply ask to become a servant.
Then he began practicing what he would say.
Father, I have sinned against heaven and against you. I am no longer worthy to be called your son. Make me like one of your hired servants.
Over and over, he repeated those words. Because guilt was heavy on his heart, he knew he had made terrible decisions. He knew he had hurt his father. He knew he had wasted everything. And maybe he wondered,
What if he refuses me? What if he shuts the door? What if I destroyed everything forever?
So he started walking home, step after step, mile after mile, with fear in his heart. And while he was still far away, something incredible happened. His father saw him. Now think about that. The father saw him while he was still far away. That means the father had probably been watching, day after day, looking down roads, waiting, hoping, praying that maybe one day his son would come back. And the moment he saw him, he recognized him immediately. Maybe his son's clothes were torn. Maybe he looked thinner. Maybe he looked tired and broken. But a father knows his child. And then, the father did something unexpected. He ran. Back then, older men did not usually run. Running was considered undignified. But this father didn't care. He wasn't thinking about pride. He wasn't thinking about appearances. He was thinking about his son. He ran toward him. Imagine the younger son's face. He expected anger. He expected disappointment. He expected judgment. Instead, he saw his father running toward him. Before he could even finish speaking, his father wrapped his arms around him and hugged him. The son began his speech.
Father, I have sinned against heaven and against you. I am no longer worthy to be called your son. Welcome home, my son.
But before he could continue, the father interrupted him. He called for his servants. Now let's introduce these new characters briefly. The servants worked in the household and obeyed the father's instructions. The father said,
Quick, bring the best robe. Put it on him, put a ring on his finger, put sandals on his feet, prepare a feast we are going to celebrate. Because this son of mine was dead and is alive again. He was lost and now he is found.
What a moment. The son came expecting punishment. Instead, he found love. He came expecting rejection. Instead, he found open arms. He came believing he was no longer worthy. But the father still called him,
My son.
And while the celebration began, another person entered the scene. Remember the older brother, the responsible one, the obedient one. He had been out working in the fields. As he walked back home, he heard music. He heard dancing. He heard celebration. Confused, he asked a servant what was happening. The servant said,
Your brother came home, and your father is celebrating because he returned safely.
Instead of becoming happy, anger filled the older brother's heart. He refused to go inside. The father came out to speak with him, but the older brother said,
I've worked for you all these years. I obeyed you. I never disobeyed your commands. And you, this son of yours, wasted everything and now you celebrate him?
Then the father looked at him and said,
My son, you are always with me. Everything I have is yours. But we had to celebrate because your brother was dead and is alive again. He was lost. And now he is found.
And this is where Jesus ended the story. No ending explaining what happened next. No answer about whether the older brother joined the celebration. Because the real question wasn't about the older brother. The question was for everyone listening. And maybe for us too. Because at some point, many people become like the younger son. We run after things we think will satisfy us. We make mistakes. We chase temporary things. We get lost. And sometimes, we become like the older brother. We become proud. We become judgmental. We forget mercy. But the powerful message of this story is this. No matter how far someone has gone, no matter how many mistakes they have made, no matter how lost they feel, the door home is still open. Because grace waits with open arms. And sometimes, the greatest journey a person will ever take is the journey back home.